Hello everyone, thank you for coming back to the channel. Today's story continues the journey of Diem and CEO Toan, a journey filled with lingering pain and unresolved emotions. Two people who once seemed to have lost each other forever in the harsh flow of life. Fate brought them back together in a quiet Pomelo garden, where a gentle hug from behind awakened buried memories, where two hearts recognized each other before reason could catch up. But just as they begin to find their way back to one another, CEO Toan's past slowly returns, threatening the fragile peace they've only just regained. Will they be strong enough this time to hold on and move forward together? Or will destiny once again pull them apart? If you enjoy emotional, heartfelt love stories with depth and unexpected twists like this one, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next episodes. And now, let's begin the story. Morning in the countryside begins very early. Dew still clings to the pomelo leaves. The air is cool and quiet, so quiet you can hear birds singing somewhere far beyond the garden. A narrow dirt path leads into the small farm lined on both sides with pomelo trees heavy with fruit, their branches bending under the weight. Diem walks slowly into the yard. She pauses for a moment, takes a deep breath, and lets her eyes drift across the wide garden in front of her. Green pomelos hang silently above as if waiting to be picked. In that instant, a strange feeling rises inside her. Familiar, yet hollow at the same time. An elderly woman steps out of the house, thin and slightly hunched from years of age. She looks at Diem and squints, smiling kindly. "Who are you looking for?" she asks in a slow, gentle voice. Diem bows politely. "Yes, ma'am. I saw that you have so many pomelos. I wanted to ask, are you selling them?" The old woman lets out a soft sigh, her gaze drifting back toward the garden. "There are a lot of them, that's true. But I'm old now. I can't harvest them anymore. They've just been sitting there these past few days." Diem follows her gaze, hesitates for a second, then continues. "If you agree, I'd like to help you pick them. I can take them to the market to sell. I'll pay you this much. Does that sound fair to you?" She gently names a price. The old woman falls silent, thinking, her wrinkled hand gripping the edge of her clothes. After a moment, she nods. "All right, go ahead and pick them. Just be careful." Diem smiles, feeling a little lighter inside. She rolls up her sleeves and steps into the pomelo garden, unaware that this very place is about to change her life forever. She wears a woven bamboo basket at her side, pruning shears in hand, and begins working with an ease that feels almost instinctive, as if she has done this many times before. The sound of the shears snapping through the pomelo stems is dry and steady. With each cut, a heavy fruit drops gently into the basket, making a dull, solid thud. Leaves tremble softly, and the faint scent of pomelo oil drifts through the air, gentle yet unmistakable. She bends down, reaches upward, sometimes rising onto her toes, to grab the pomelos hidden deep within the foliage. In the middle of that stillness, Diem suddenly feels her heart beating faster than usual. She doesn't know why, but a vague sense of unease creeps in, as if someone is very close by. She pauses, listening. Aside from the wind and rustling leaves, there is nothing else. When Diem moves to the next row of trees, she suddenly sees a figure in the distance. A man stands beneath a pomelo tree, his back turned to her, both arms raised, as he carefully picks each fruit. Something about the way he stands makes her freeze. his shoulders the slight tilt of his body, the slow, familiar rhythm of his movements. All of it feels strangely familiar. Diem holds her breath. The hand gripping the shears begins to tremble. She looks closer. Sunlight slants through the leaves, casting a soft golden glow over the man's back. He bends down to place the pomelo into his basket, the motion practiced as if he has been doing this work for a long time. Her chest tightens. A hazy memory rises, leaving her mind blank. The shears slip from her hand and fall onto the soft ground with a quiet sound. Yet it is enough to make the world seem to stop. Diem stands frozen, her eyes fixed on that familiar back. She whispers, her voice barely audible. Toan. She lets the bamboo basket drop to the ground. Pomelos roll out, bumping into one another with dull, heavy sounds. She doesn't turn back to look. She walks fast, then almost runs, her feet sinking into the damp soil, dry leaves crunching beneath each step. When she is just one step behind him, Diem stops for a brief moment, takes a deep breath, as if gathering every bit of courage she has left. Then she rushes forward, wraps both arms around his waist, and holds him tightly from behind. The man's body stiffens. He stops completely, the pomelo in his hand frozen in midair. His breathing falters as if he doesn't understand what is happening. Diem presses her face against his back, trembling. "It's me," she whispers, her voice breaking through tears. He remains still. He doesn't turn around. He doesn't pull her hands away. He simply stands there in the quiet pomelo garden, letting her hold on tighter and tighter, as if afraid that if she lets go even for a second, he will disappear once again. The man stands motionless in the middle of the pomelo garden. The arms wrapped around him from behind are still holding tight, trembling warm, carrying hurried breaths and tears slowly soaking through his thin shirt. CEO Toan says nothing. He can feel her heartbeat clearly. Fast, unsteady, like someone who has been waiting for this moment for far too long. A strange sensation rises in his chest. Familiar, painful, and so overwhelming, it makes it hard for him to breathe. One of his hands is still holding a pomelo. His fingers tighten around it without realizing until numbness spreads, and he still doesn't let go. He closes his eyes for a brief second. In the darkness behind his lashes, broken images flash in and out, too fast to grasp. Long hair blowing in the wind, a voice calling his name in the night, a tight, real embrace. He opens his eyes again, his breathing heavier. "It's me." The voice comes from right behind him. Very soft. Yet it seems to reach straight into the deepest place in his mind, the place he hasn't been able to touch for so long. CEO Toan swallows. His throat is dry and burning. He has heard this voice before, in fragmented dreams with no beginning or end. In nights when he woke suddenly, his heart racing for no clear reason. In moments when he stood alone in the pomelo garden, looking up at the sky, feeling like something incredibly important was missing. He never knew what it was, until now. The arms around him tighten again. The person behind him seems afraid he'll leave, afraid that if she loosens her grip even a little, everything will disappear, as if it never existed. He feels her small shoulders shaking, struggling to hold back her sobs. CEO Toan takes a deep breath. His chest aches as if someone has just squeezed his heart. Slowly he turns around. The movement is careful, very slow, as if moving too fast might make the person in front of him vanish. When he fully turns, his eyes meet her face. Diem. The world tilts, not because he's seeing her for the first time, but because he's seeing her as if he never forgot. Her eyes are red from crying lashes soaked with tears, lips trembling as she tries to hold herself together. Her face is painfully clear, perfectly matching the image that has haunted him all this time. A heavy sound echoes in his mind. Diem. Her name slips from his lips naturally, without thought, without effort. He just knows with absolute certainty that it is her name. Diem freezes. For a brief moment, she doesn't dare believe what she's hearing. Her eyes widen, tears spill out even faster. But this time, they aren't tears of despair. They are tears of release. She breaks down crying, throws herself into his arms again, holding him tightly as if afraid he'll disappear. Toan. She calls, her voice choking. You remember now. CEO Toan doesn't answer right away. He lifts a hand, touches her hair, then her trembling shoulder. His hand is shaking noticeably. A familiar feeling floods his body so strong it nearly overwhelms him. He pulls her into his chest, holding her tighter, so close there's almost no space between them. He presses his face into her hair, breathing in the familiar scent that makes his heart ache. I remember, he says softly but firmly. I remember everything. The memories buried for so long burst free. They come rushing back without order, without warning. Quiet evenings, sitting side by side. Moments when she turned away in anger, only to come back and hug him from behind. Simple happiness he once believed would last forever. Everything comes back at once. His throat tightens. A hot tear rolls down his cheek before he even realizes it. CEO Toan lifts Diem's face. She's still crying, but her eyes are no longer lost. In them, he sees himself clearly, completely. He reaches up and wipes away her tears slowly, gently, as if afraid of hurting her. I'm sorry, he says in a low voice. I made you look for me for so long. Diem shakes her head, gripping his shirt tightly. As long as you remember. That's enough. They stand in the middle of the Pomelo garden, holding each other for a long time. No one says another word. A light breeze passes through the leaves, carrying the faint scent of pomelo. The world continues on, but for them, everything seems to have stopped in this moment. Finally, CEO Toan lowers his head and places a gentle kiss on Diem's forehead. No rush. No need to prove anything. Just a quiet confirmation. He whispers just loud enough for the two of them to hear. I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere. Diem closes her eyes and tightens her arms around him, letting the tears fall this time, the calmest tears she has ever cried. They remain standing in the pomelo garden for a long time, as if both are afraid that the moment they let go, everything will disappear. Above them, the leaves sway gently in the breeze. Sunlight slips through the gaps, landing on their shoulders in small flickering patches of light. Diem is the first to loosen her hold, but only slightly. She still keeps hold of his hand, as if by instinct, a habit returning after a long absence. She lowers her head and takes a few deep breaths, trying to steady herself. Her tears have stopped, but her eyes are still red. CEO Toan looks at her for a long moment. His gaze is no longer confused, no longer empty like it was during the days he lived here without knowing who he was. In his eyes now are regret, remorse, and above all, a gentleness he had lost for far too long. You've gotten so thin, he says softly, carefully, as if afraid that speaking too much might shatter the fragile calm around them. Diem smiles, a tired but genuine smile. You too. They both let out a quiet laugh. very soft, very brief, as if anything louder would feel out of place. After that comes another pause, but this time it isn't heavy. CEO Toan tightens his grip on her hand. "I'm sorry I left you alone for so long," he says, his voice low. "There were days when I woke up not knowing who I was, but strangely, I always felt like someone was missing. I didn't know who it was. I only knew that if I didn't find that person, I would never be at peace." Diem lowers her head and squeezes his hand. "I looked for you everywhere. There were times I thought, maybe you were no longer in this world." She pauses, then looks up at him. "But I couldn't give up." CEO Toan lifts his hand and gently touches her cheek. The movement is slow and careful, as if he's making sure she's really there in front of him, not just a fading memory. "I don't remember how I ended up here," he continues. "I only remember waking up and seeing the old woman sitting beside me. She let me stay. She gave me work. I lived day by day, not knowing I once had another life." Diem listens without interrupting, only nodding softly. In his eyes, she sees a very real fear, the fear of someone who once lost himself. "Were you scared?" she asks quietly. CEO Toan is silent for a long moment, then nods. "Yes, very." He exhales slowly. "But today, when you held me, everything suddenly became clearer. Like I'd been lost for a long time and finally found my way home." Diem can't help herself. She steps forward and hugs him again, this time softer, calmer. She rests her head against his chest, listening to a heartbeat that is no longer frantic. They sit down beneath a nearby pomelo tree. No one is in a hurry to leave. The basket of pomelos lies scattered on the ground, the pruning shears forgotten somewhere nearby, but neither of them cares. CEO Toan tells her about his days here, about waking up early every morning, about picking pomelos for traders, about simple meals shared with the old woman. His voice is steady, unembellished, yet every word makes Diem fall silent. "She was very good to me," he says. "If it weren't for her, I probably wouldn't have survived." Diem nods. "I know, I'll thank her." After a while, CEO Toan reaches up and gently wipes away the last tear at the corner of her eye. "Don't cry anymore," he says softly. "I'm here now." She looks at him for a long time, as if trying to memorize his face once more, just in case fate decides to play tricks on them again. This time she says, "Don't let go of me." CEO Toan smiles and leans closer to her. "I won't." He bends down and places a slow, deep, but gentle kiss on her lips. There is no rush, no burning desire, only the certainty of two people who have been through loss and found each other again. They remain there beneath the pomelo tree, hand in hand, talking about small things, about what they'll do tomorrow, about taking the pomelos to the market, about the days ahead. No one talks about the distant future. After everything, they are together, and that is enough. The wind moves through the garden again. Pomelo leaves rustle softly. An ordinary morning continues to pass by, but for Diem and CEO Toan, it is a morning that marks the beginning of a new life. From the small house with its old weathered roof, the elderly woman slowly steps out onto the porch. She plans to check on how much pomelo Diem has picked, and to remind her not to climb too high. The branches are heavy with fruit this year, and it's easy to slip. She carries her worn straw hat, leaning on her cane as she walks each step unhurried, as if she's long grown used to the slow rhythm of life here. When she reaches the narrow path leading into the garden, she stops. Among the lush green pomelo trees beneath the largest one, two people are sitting side by side. At first, she doesn't think much of it, assuming they're just workers taking a break. But then she looks closer, and her gaze stills, unable to look away. They're holding hands. Not a polite gesture, not a casual touch. It's the kind of hand-holding shared by two people who have been through so much. Like letting go, even for a moment, would make everything fall apart. The old woman stands there unmoving. She doesn't step forward, and she doesn't turn back. A light breeze passes through the garden, pomelo leaves rustling softly. She sees the man, the foster son she has taken in and cared for all this time. Bowing his head, listening as the young woman beside him says something quietly. Then he looks up and smiles. That smile makes her heart tighten. It's been a long time since she's seen him smile like that. Not a polite smile. Not the kind of smile he gives out of gratitude. This one has warmth. It has life. It looks like something precious has just been found again. She grips her cane a little tighter. During all the time he's lived here, she's always felt that this man was like a shadow. He worked hard, spoke respectfully, never complained, but there was always a deep emptiness in his eyes. She never knew who he was or where he came from. She only knew that one morning she found him unconscious by the roadside, his body covered in scratches, his eyes open but completely vacant. She never asked many questions. She simply brought him home. Now watching the scene in front of her, she seems to understand. The young woman tilts her head and rests it against his shoulder. He lifts a hand and gently wipes away her tears, clumsy but full of care. She looks up at him, her eyes still red but no longer lost. It's the look of someone who has finally found where she belongs. The old woman lets out a soft sigh, not one of sadness, but of relief, as if a weight she's been carrying without realizing it has finally been lifted. She turns and slowly walks toward them. Her footsteps are so light that they don't notice her until she's already standing nearby. Diem sees her first. She startles and quickly stands up a little flustered, like someone caught in a private moment. CEO Toan rises as well instinctively, turning toward the old woman with a hint of worry in his eyes. The old woman looks at them, her gaze kind yet deep. She doesn't ask anything right away. She studies the young woman's face carefully, then looks at the man beside her. "So," she says slowly, "you're the one he's been waiting for, aren't you?" Diem freezes. She doesn't quite know how to answer. She gives a small nod, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. Yes. The old woman nods as if she already knew. She turns to CEO Toan, her eyes neither accusing nor probing. "So, you remember now?" CEO Toan looks at her and bows his head deeply. "Yes, ma'am, I remember." The old woman is silent for a moment. Then she smiles, a slow, gentle smile filled with acceptance. "That's good," she says. "I'm old. I can't keep someone by my side forever." Diem quickly steps forward. "Ma'am, thank you. If it weren't for you, he might..." Her voice catches, and she can't go on. The old woman lifts a hand, signaling her to stop. "No need to thank me. Meeting each other means there was fate. Whether you can stay together or not, that's up to the two of you." She turns to CEO Toan, her voice softer, but warm. "While you were here, I treated you like my own son. But now that you've found the one who matters most to you, don't lose her again." CEO Toan nods, his eyes turning red. I promise. The old woman looks at them one more time, her gaze lingering on their tightly clasped hands. Then she turns away and slowly walks back toward the small house. Before disappearing behind the pomelo trees, she stops without turning around. When you're done picking, come in and eat. I'm making sour soup for lunch. Her voice is calm, as if everything that just happened were simply a natural part of life. The two of them remain standing in the garden, watching her figure until it disappears. The breeze drifts through, carrying the gentle scent of pomelos. Diem squeezes CEO Toan's hand a little tighter. She's so kind, she whispers. CEO Toan nods. She kept me here, so you could find me. They stand there hand in hand in the sunlit pomelo garden. Nothing more needs to be said. Because in the end, it isn't just the two of them who have found each other again. The world around them has quietly accepted it as well. The afternoon passes slowly. The sun is now high overhead, casting a pale golden light over the pomelo garden, no longer gentle like the morning, but carrying a quiet heat. Diem and CEO Toan sit under the old woman's porch roof, each holding a cup of water, yet neither of them drinks. They are both silent, not because there is nothing to say, but because too many emotions are rising at once, and neither knows where to begin. CEO Toan is the first to break the silence. He looks out toward the yard where sacks of pomelos are neatly lined up, his voice slow and heavy. I used to think, if one day I remembered everything, I would leave this place immediately. Diem turns to look at him. She doesn't interrupt, just waits for him to continue. Life here is very simple, he says. No one knows who I am. No one expects anything from me. Every day is just work, eat, sleep. But because of that, I was afraid. He pauses, his hand unconsciously tightening around the cup, afraid that if I stayed too long, I would forget that I ever had another life. Diem lowers her head. His words touch exactly what she has been thinking herself, but hasn't dared to say out loud. And you? He asks, turning to her. What were you planning to do if you hadn't met me today? She stays quiet for a long time. Then she finally speaks, her voice soft but steady. I was going to sell all these pomelos, she says, then move on. Go somewhere else. Keep working wherever I could, keep looking for you, until I had no strength left. The words make CEO Toan close his eyes briefly. He understands. He understands what it's like to live only to find someone without knowing what tomorrow will bring. I'm sorry, he says quietly, for making you live like that. Diem shakes her head. I don't blame you. I'm just afraid that after today, everything might become uncertain again. They look at each other. The distance between them is small, but the future ahead feels unclear. From inside the house, the old woman comes out carrying 2 bowls of steaming soup. She sets them on the old wooden table and looks at them, her gaze calm, as if she already understands everything. Eat, she says. Whatever's going on, you still have to eat first. They do. Lunch passes quietly, but not heavily. There's the sound of spoons touching bowls, the breeze moving softly through the garden. The old woman doesn't ask anything more, but her presence eases the tension. After the meal, she stands up and says slowly, "This afternoon, I'm going to the market to sell the pomelos. If you two want to go, come along." The words feel like an opening, not a push, not a clear suggestion, but enough to make them face their choice. When the old woman goes back inside, CEO Toan turns to Diem. If you want to leave this place right now, he says, I'll go with you. Diem looks at him, her eyes wavering. And what about her? He falls silent. It's a question he's been asking himself ever since his memories returned. He knows he can't pretend these months never happened. The old woman took him in, gave him a place to live, gave him time to survive when he wasn't himself. I don't want to leave her alone, he says quietly. But I don't want to lose you again either. Diem stands up and steps into the yard. She looks toward the pomelo garden, the place that changed her life that morning. The branches are still heavy with fruit, still quiet, as if nothing has happened. I think, she says without turning back, we don't have to decide everything today. CEO Toan follows her. What do you mean? Stay a little longer, she says. Not to run away and not to give up. Just stay. To repay her kindness. And so, you can truly find your footing again. He looks at her, his expression softening. Aren't you afraid things might change again? Diem turns back and gives a small smile. I am. But this time you're here. And so am I. CEO Toan reaches out and takes her hand. This grip no longer trembles like it did in the morning. It's firm, steady like a promise that doesn't need words. Then we'll stay, he says. At least until I'm confident enough to walk forward with you. They stand there for a while. Then CEO Toan looks toward the small house where the old woman is busy preparing to go to the market. I'll talk to her, he says. When he goes inside, Diem remains in the yard, her heart feeling a little lighter. She knows the road ahead is still uncertain. But for the first time in a long while, she doesn't feel alone. A moment later, CEO Toan comes back out, his expression more relaxed. She said he tells her that anywhere is fine, as long as the two of us don't lose each other. Diem lets out a soft laugh, tears welling up again. She really understands everything. That afternoon, the three of them go to the market together to sell pomelos. Not as anonymous laborers, but as people beginning again, slowly, carefully, but together. The road ahead is far from smooth. But at this moment, they choose not to leave and not to rush back into the past either. They choose to stay, to heal, to repay kindness, and to build a future no longer shaped by loss. The evening breeze moves gently through the pomelo garden. Leaves sway softly, as if witnessing a quiet but important decision, one that will lead them into a new chapter of their lives. The afternoon market is busier than Diem expected. Laughter, bargaining voices, and the sharp sound of motorbikes blend together into a noisy but familiar rhythm. The old woman's pomelo stall sits at the corner of the market small. Just a few sacks neatly stacked, but the fruit is fresh, the skin tight, the scent light and fragrant. So customers stop by quickly. CEO Toan helps weigh the pomelos. He works carefully, slowly, as if even the smallest mistake might ruin everything. Diem stands beside him, keeping track of prices, smiling politely at customers now and then. From a distance, they look like a young married couple running a simple stall, quiet, ordinary, at peace. But that peace doesn't last long. A pickup truck pulls up not far from the stall. A middle-aged man steps out, dressed far more neatly than the others in the market. He scans the area as if looking for someone, then suddenly stops when his eyes land on CEO Toan. He freezes. CEO Toan is bent over tying the sack of pomelos, unaware of anything. But the feeling of being watched makes him pause. He looks up and his gaze meets the man's. In that brief second, the man's expression shifts clearly. Surprise flashes across his face, then suspicion, and finally, a thin smile. "You," the man says, walking closer. "You look a lot like someone I know." CEO Toan frowns, a sense of discomfort rising in him. "I think you've got the wrong person." The man gives a faint smile. "Maybe, but the way you stand, the look in your eyes, that's not so easy to mistake." Diem senses the tension and steps forward. "Excuse me, sir, are you looking to buy pomelos?" The man turns to her, his gaze lingering a moment longer than necessary. "And you are?" "I'm helping my grandmother sell." Diem replies calmly. He nods, but his eyes drift back to CEO Toan. "How long have you been working here?" CEO Toan doesn't answer right away. A strange feeling rises inside him, like standing in front of an old door, knowing that if he opens it, everything will come rushing back, yet not feeling ready. "Not long," he says shortly. The man smiles as if he expected that answer. Even more interesting, he takes out his wallet, buys a few pomelos, pays in full. But before leaving, he leans closer to CEO Toan and speaks very quietly. "If you really are who I think you are, sooner or later, someone will come looking for you." With that, he turns and walks back to the pickup truck, leaving behind a chill that runs straight down CEO Toan's spine. Diem watches the truck disappear, her heart pounding. "Do you know that man?" CEO Toan shakes his head. "No, but I didn't like the way he looked at me." The old woman steps out from behind the stall, worry on her face. "What happened?" "Nothing, Grandma." Diem answers quickly. He probably just mistook him for someone else. But as they pack up to leave, CEO Toan stays silent. On the road back to the village, he walks more slowly than usual. Fragmented images in his mind begin to connect: a large office, tense meetings, unfamiliar faces filled with calculation. He remembers now, not just Diem, but an entire world. He once belonged to a world where relationships were nothing like the simple life of this pomelo garden. That night, after the old woman has gone to bed, CEO Toan and Diem sit on the porch. An oil lamp flickers softly, insects chirping in the dark. "Did you notice," he says slowly, "that man this afternoon?" He felt like a warning of what Diem asks. "That my past hasn't disappeared," he replies. "It's just waiting for the right moment to come back." Diem takes his hand. "Are you afraid?" He stays quiet for a moment, then nods. "Yes. Not for myself, but for you. For her. For this peaceful life." Diem tightens her grip. "Whatever happens, don't carry it alone this time. We'll face it together." CEO Toan looks at her, his eyes filled with both gratitude and worry. "Are you sure the road ahead won't be easy?" "I'm sure," she says without hesitation. In the darkness at the edge of the village, the pickup truck stops. The man from the afternoon makes a phone call, his voice low. "I saw him," he says. "It's Toan. He's alive." On the other end of the line, a cold voice responds, "Keep this quiet. I'll handle it." The call ends. The truck turns around and drives away into the night. Inside the small house, Diem rests her head on CEO Toan's shoulder. They sit in silence, unaware that an unseen current has already begun to rise, threatening the fragile peace they have just found. Outside, the pomelo garden lies calm under the moonlight. But from this moment on, their lives will no longer be as simple as before.